Hello everyone, let's get on with the live demonstration. So I have a few tools with me over here which you could probably use to do the doodle. I have with me here a CD DVD marker. You can use any marker that you have available with you. I have a few pencils, so if you're comfortable you can draw with the pencils. I have some ball pens here with me, so if that's something you want to use, please go ahead. You could use sketch pens. You could use gel pens, which is what I will be using today. And these are just normal gel pens that are easily available at any stationery store. And lastly, we have Micron pens. If you have any other pen that you want to use, ink pens, anything, please feel free. Micron pens are what artists and professional doodlers use. So Micron pens have different numbers. You get a set of different kinds of Micron pens, and the numbers correspond to the nib thickness. So this thickness depends on the number over here. So you get thick to thin ones, and so you can get variations in your lines. So that's the purpose of the Micron pens. So I'm just gonna grab one of my gel pens here and we can get started with our demonstration. So the paper that I'm using today is normal A4 size paper, normal printer paper. You can use whatever you have available with you. So we're gonna start with something very basic. Now you'll see all drawings, doodles, everything can be broken down into basic shapes and lines. And lines are the most basic form of drawing anything. So that's what we're going to start with, because this class is for beginners. It's for people who are not very confident or maybe not very experienced with drawing. So we're just going to start with the very basics. We will start with drawing some horizontal lines. So just take your pen, take your paper and be very intentional and slow and try to draw straight horizontal lines. I'm just gonna switch pens. It doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't all have to be in a line, so don't worry about it. Then we move on to vertical lines. So we're just gonna try out a few of them. Then we move on to diagonal lines. So don't worry too much about getting them perfect. Doodling is not about perfection, it's about having fun. And don't worry if your lines are not as straight as mine, because I've had years of practice and I'm still not perfect, and that's okay. So don't think too much, just enjoy yourselves. Okay, so we've got horizontal lines, vertical lines, diagonal lines in both directions. Next, what we'll do is we'll combine some of these lines. For example, you could combine the vertical and horizontal lines to have some crosses and checks. Then we could combine the diagonal lines, both the diagonal lines in opposite directions, to have some crisscrossing lines. Now even if you increase the distances between them, you can have bigger checks, smaller checks, just different kinds of combinations. Another kind of line that you could have is the wavy line. So just a smooth curved wave. So try that out. And another one we could probably experiment with could be a zigzag line. Again, that's just a combination of the different diagonal lines. So like that, these are just a few examples that I'm showing you of lines, but you could combine them in so many different ways to create your own patterns. Now, after lines, we will move on to basic shapes. So we're going to start with maybe a square. So remember, doodling is not about perfection. So it doesn't matter if your square is not perfect, or if you want a sketchy feel, you can have a really quick rushed drawing, and that's okay. But we're going today for a more slow, intentional kind of drawing. So make sure all your lines are joined. Make sure that the dot from where you start your circle is also the dot where you end your circle. When we are slow and intentional with our lines, it could also be a practice of mindfulness, because you're really focusing on the task at hand. You're going slow. You're trying to get it right. So it requires a lot of concentration. We can just add as many shapes as we want. So we'll just stick to some of the basic shapes. Okay, so square, rectangle, circle, triangle, oval, semicircle. We could even add some curved lines, like a spiral maybe, where we have these lines going inward. You could have an open-ended spiral, you could have a closed spiral. You can start from the inside out, whatever you're comfortable with. And what we're going to do after that is we're going to use these lines and shapes and create a drawing, a composition, just by using a combination of these things. Now, when we draw a composition, I don't really have anything in mind. I'm doing this as a play activity, like a play exercise. When you're just playing around with shapes, that's something we used to do when we were kids, right? Where we would have these different shapes, we would put them together, see different combinations, how they fit in well with each other. So we would explore and discover many new ways of combinations. Similarly with art and patterns, when you're just playing, when you don't have an intention in mind, it's great for coming up with new problem solving techniques. So anyway, this kind of an exercise is stimulating your creative side, the right side of your brain, and that's also great for problem solving. So just play around, have fun. I'm just gonna put together randomly some shapes and lines and see what we come up with. So I'm not planning this at all. I'm just going with my gut and seeing what I feel like doing. So maybe I'll just add a couple of shapes. Maybe I could add some smaller shapes as well. And I could repeat shapes. And you can put them anywhere, okay? So maybe I could have a few circles. Or you could have some spiral. And maybe some wavy lines. Okay, so we're just experimenting, we're having fun with it. I could probably color in this area. Just to add some depth to it. Maybe I could add some bigger wavy lines in this area and repeat it. Again, even the distance between two lines is something you decide, you play with. If I want to increase the distance between the wavy lines, then I can try that out and see how it looks. So it's all up to you, how sketchy you want it, how neat you want it, how detailed you want it. So for example, this is a very basic combination, right? A composition. How do I make it more complex? That's up to me if I want to make it more complex. For example, since this is very basic and I want to add some more details, so I start designing or creating my own patterns inside the bigger shapes. For example, I'm using this very common but very pretty pattern made up of curves. So you make one curve and two others around it, and then you repeat it. A smaller one and two bigger ones around it. So it's just a matter of curves put together, and the repetition creates a pattern. So just enjoy the process, enjoy the repetition. Try to do it like a mindfulness activity where you enjoy it, but also don't add any stress to it for perfection. It's totally okay if you make mistakes, it's totally okay if you mess up. So just have fun with it. Okay, so you can do as many as you want. If you want to fill up the box, you can fill up the box. If you don't want to fill up the square, you can leave it half filled up, half empty. So that's all up to you. I'm just gonna fill it up because that's what I feel like doing. But you can feel free to do whatever you feel is right for you. Even this composition, you don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. You can come up with your own combinations, your own patterns. Okay, so this is the design I've come up with. Now, if I want to add some more depth to it, I could color in just the middle curves everywhere. And you'll see how the design transforms just by coloring in small bits here and there. It breaks the monotony and it adds depth to your composition. So we're just going to color in some bits and pieces. Okay, so you can take your time with this. Enjoy the process. And you can begin to see what a difference it's making when we color in some bits of it. Okay, so now that that's done, you can think of adding patterns, add textures to some of the other shapes, complicate it as much as you want. For example, even if I add something as simple as some diagonal lines here, it can add a pattern, it can look interesting. I can even just play around with dots. Okay, just points or dots. So it's up to me what I want to add where. I can leave some space, I can add some shape. Okay, so I leave it to you to play around with this for a while. Character which you can draw along with me. So I'm gonna show you a very basic one. If you feel more confident, you can use different shapes, you can add your own complexities to it. Please feel free. So I'm just going to draw a circle for the head. I'm gonna draw two dots for the eyes. Now you can draw eyes in whatever way you want, like actual eyes or bigger circles around the eyes, however you want it to be. Maybe we could just have a line coming out for the nose somewhere in the middle. You can make this an L shape, you can make it a triangle, Okay, anything that you want. And keeping it as simple and basic as possible, you can just add your own bits to it. And then you can add a smile. If you want a really wide smile, you can always join the curve with a straight line to denote a big wide smile. Now, maybe we could make the nose an L-shaped nose. We can add ears. The ears are usually between the eyes and the nose. And you can have hair however you want. I'm just going to add some curves here to show curly hair. Okay, then we'll start with the body. I'm gonna show a very basic one. You can use whatever shape you want. You want a triangle shaped body, you want a rectangle, a oval, anything. I'm gonna go for a normal rectangular body. So first I'm gonna draw the collar of his shirt, a V shape. And then I'm just gonna remove some shoulders from the sides. So I'm not really drawing a proper neck. And then I'm gonna bring it down to make it a bit rectangular-ish. And I'm gonna close it here. Now you can draw any kinds of legs you want. Thin ones, fat ones, whatever you want. Okay, so I'm just drawing very simple but thin legs. So I'm gonna make it very thin hands and legs. That's just an artistic style I want to follow right now. Okay, and now you can make him wear some shoes. So a curved line. Okay, just trying to simplify it. You can have maybe one hand down like that, coming out from his shoulder. Another one probably like this. So just make a kind of U shape, attaching it to the shoulder. And then just make a double line out of it. Now the hands could be a variety of kinds of hands, as simple as you want it, as complicated as you want it. So I'm just going to show you a simple way. Make a thumb first. Okay, just like that, a curve coming out. And maybe 1, 2, 3 fingers. We're not going to draw all 5. 3 is fine. Similarly here, we'll have the thumb coming out. We can have a little bit of a curve like this. And then we have 1, 2, 3. And then just join it. Now there are different ways of drawing hands. You could even just draw them like this. This is what we used to do when we were kids. Just a pointed thumb and a curve for the hand collectively without separate fingers. So that's one way of drawing hands. You could always add fingers later. So these are just some of the ways you can doodle. So this is what I wanted to show y'all today, how simple drawing and doodling can really be, where you just combine basic lines and shapes to create all sorts of things. I hope you enjoyed today's live demo session.